You spend years, sometimes decades, grinding toward a number. You track it obsessively. You refresh your brokerage account more than you check your texts. You dream about the day your portfolio finally flips to seven figures. And then it happens. You see it. $1 million, sitting right there on your screen. And instead of fireworks, instead of this overwhelming rush of victory you always imagined, you feel almost nothing. Maybe a little confused, maybe even a little empty. And that emotional disconnect? That is something nobody in the personal finance world ever warned you about. So today, we are going to talk about what actually happens when you reach $1 million invested. Not the math version you have seen on every other channel. The real version. The psychological shift, the weird numbness, the unexpected realizations, and the moment the entire game of money changes in ways that will genuinely surprise you. Let me start with the emotional piece, because it is the one that catches people completely off guard. For years, your brain has been wired to treat 1 million as the destination. It is the number society holds up as the gold standard of financial success. So naturally, your mind builds it up into something almost mythical. But here is the psychological trap nobody mentions. When you are in the accumulation phase, your brain gets addicted to the feeling of progress. Every $1,000 added feels meaningful. Every milestone crossed feels earned. The journey itself becomes the reward. So when you finally arrive, the brain has nothing left to chase. The goal that motivated you for so long is gone, and the emotional payoff you expected just does not show up. That is not failure. That is actually a very well-documented psychological phenomenon. Humans are wired for pursuit, not arrival. But once you move past that initial numbness, something else kicks in. And this part is where things get genuinely fascinating. The math of wealth building changes completely at $1 million. Think about what compounding actually looks like at this level. The S&P 500 has historically delivered around 10% annually over long stretches of time. 10% of 1 million is $100,000 in a single year, without you working a single extra hour, without you pitching another client, without grinding through another project. Your portfolio just quietly generated what is essentially a full annual salary for most Americans. Compare that to the average 401k balance in America, which sits around $134,000. Most people's entire life savings would not even match what a $1 million portfolio produces in 1 year of returns. Let that land for a second. And this is where the acceleration effect truly begins. You might have spent 15, 20, even 25 years building toward that first million. Every dollar came from your labor. But now the dynamic shifts. At 1 million, your money starts doing more heavy lifting than you are. A 10% return here does not just feel different mathematically, it rewires how you think about time and work. You stop seeing your paycheck as your only financial engine. You start seeing your portfolio as a partner in building your future. Here is where the snowball analogy actually makes sense in practice, not just theory. The rule of 72 tells us that money doubles every 7.2 years at 10% returns. So 1 million becomes 2 million in roughly 7 years. 2 million becomes 4 million 7 years after that. 4 becomes 8. And while it took you potentially 2 decades to build that first million, the second million can arrive in 3 to 4 years. For many people. Not because they suddenly got smarter or worked harder, simply because compounding reached the threshold where it becomes self-sustaining momentum. This is also the point where your relationship with market volatility completely transforms. When you had $10,000 invested, a 30% crash stung, but it was manageable. A few $1,000s gone on paper. Uncomfortable, but not life-altering. At 1 million, that same 30% drop means $300,000 disappearing from your net worth, at least temporarily on paper. You would expect that to feel catastrophic. But here is the fascinating paradox. People who actually have 1 million invested tend to handle downturns with far more calm than people with smaller portfolios, because they have lived through enough market cycles to know that time in the market is what matters. They stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. They buy more during the dips. They treat crashes as sales rather than disasters. And that behavioral shift, that emotional mastery, is what propels people from 1 million to 5 million. Now here is the part that genuinely changes lives. And it has nothing to do with the numbers on your screen. At 1 million invested, you are no longer just saving for a distant retirement. You are building options, real, tangible options. The option to leave a job that is quietly crushing your soul. The option to spend more time with your kids while they still think you are cool. The option to take a gap year and figure out what you actually want your life to look like. Money at this scale stops being a scorecard and starts being a tool for designing your life on your own terms. That shift in purpose is the thing every person who reaches this milestone describes as the real reward, not the number itself. And if you want to reach that milestone faster and with real guidance on your specific financial situation, I want you to check out the Wealth Accelerator Academy. It is a group coaching system and course specifically designed to help people build toward financial freedom with a clear, structured plan. The link is in the description. Because knowing the concepts matters. But having a personalized roadmap and a community backing you up is what closes the gap between knowing and actually doing. Here is something else that surprises people at the 1 million mark. Your decisions get simpler, not more complicated. You stop chasing hot tips. You stop watching financial news like it is sports scores. You realize that the boring, consistent, low-drama approach to investing in broad index funds is exactly what built your wealth, and it is exactly what will continue building it. There is a deep clarity that comes with having done the hard part. The noise that used to feel urgent just stops mattering. There are over 24 million millionaire households in the United States right now, and here is a detail worth sitting with. A significant portion of those households crossed that threshold within just the last several years. Not because incomes exploded, not because they discovered some secret investment strategy, because compounding does what compounding does when you give it enough time and stay out of your own way. The difference between someone who retires with barely enough and someone who retires with genuine abundance almost never comes down to how smart they were or how much money they started with. It almost always comes down to two things: time in the market and the discipline to keep going during the stretches where progress feels brutally invisible. That phase around 200,000 to 500,000 is where most people quit. The growth feels too slow, the sacrifices feel too real, and the payoff feels too far away. But that is precisely the moment you are closest to the tipping point. If you are somewhere in that range right now, I need you to hear this directly. You are not stuck. You are in the hardest chapter of the entire story. And the people who push through it are the ones who get to experience everything we talked about today. If you want to accelerate that journey with proven strategies, community support, and expert coaching behind you, the Wealth Accelerator Academy is built exactly for this. It is not generic advice. It is a structured system designed to take you from wherever you are right now toward genuine financial freedom. Find the link in the description and take a real look at what is possible for you. Now, one final thing before we wrap. If this video gave you even one insight that reframed how you think about your financial journey, I want you to subscribe, not because some button needs to be clicked, but because this channel consistently delivers the kind of honest, psychology-forward financial content that most creators are too afraid to share. If today's conversation felt different from what you usually find out there, subscribe so you never miss what comes next. The first million is the mountain. Everything after that is the view. Now go build something worth seeing. Let us get it.